I love intensity of color. I love having the color really go right to the emotion and to the eye. It becomes intuitive after a while. You use color and you know what the colors are going to do, so you no longer have to think about the color. You just use it as a emotive property, and you use it in a way that creates beauty. I'm Marchand. I'm a Washington, D.C. artist, and I've been working on a series of large abstract paintings in Mount Rainier, Maryland. I started at Auburn University with a wonderful teacher who I worked with the figure. We did a lot of drawing from the inside out. It was very expressionistic type work. I've been reading a lot of works by Carl Jung, dream imagery, and looking at the work of the abstract expressionists and also the symbolists and the surrealist painters. So that was really my introduction into movement, gesture, psychological drama, and the work that was particularly resonant to me at that time was Francis Bacon. I loved his gestural work. Going back to some of the earlier influences of mythology, I worked in the 80s. I went to New Mexico. I traveled a lot, and I still am traveling a lot. So travel has a really, really big influence on the way that I think about the world, what I see, the cultural differences and similarities between peoples, colors, fabrics, everything that one visually can take in and use to put into the visual statement that one's trying to make. So one of the early things that influenced me were the Native American myths, and going out to New Mexico and looking in the desert southwest at the petroglyphs and the markings on the rocks that the Native Americans made throughout their own journey. It was in New Mexico when you're standing on a mountain plateau and just looking out at this vastness in the mountain range. It's just an exhilarating feeling to be able to see so much, and yet here you are, this small thing standing in this vast landscape. So that was my first experience of the sense of space being expansive, and then that led me to want to look even further and further. Another influence that has been through my work has been music and color. Those have been two elements that I have loved and have been influenced through looking at the work of Kandinsky, because of the movement and the gesture, the breakup of the composition, and how his work has a musical basis, just visually, how one can look at that and just feel like it's opera. And I've always wanted to do that kind of gesture with color and movement. So color has been a really big part of my own toolbox, I like to say, what I use to produce the work. One of the poets that I've loved is Garcia Lorca, Federico. He's a Spanish poet, and he talks about the earth energy, the duende, which comes up from the earth. It's chaotic, but it cleanses and it moves through everything and leaves everything fresh and new. That kind of chaotic energy, earth energy, is also something that's been an inspiration for me in my own work. Where I started, which was kind of the interior world dream imagery of Carl Jung and Francis Bacon, I've moved out in my current work into the cosmos, and I have been looking at that imagery for the past 15 years and wondering how all of that energy that we see out in the cosmos relates back to us as human beings. And one really wonderful thing that happened was I was looking at a National Geographic magazine and saw this nebula image that looked so biological. It was like it was looking at the inside of the body. It was one of those moments of recognition where you go, aha, that is the same energy of the universe that's right here inside of ourselves. So that kind of got me started on this idea of moving back from these vast spaces back into the body and back into the psychology of what I started out with. Everything's changing so fast now that we don't have that mythology like we did in the past to rely on. So looking back at the earth, to me, I think that that's where the new mythology is to see ourselves as citizens of a planet that's hurling through space. Having a life in the art is a wonderful, viable way to live. I think it's really important to love and cherish our friends that we meet in the art world, especially your friends and your family, because they're the ones who are going to be the fans throughout your entire career, that even in the rough spots, they're there to help you to get through, to keep you motivated, to give you some more ideas for persevering. As an artist, need a network of other creative entrepreneurs in terms of getting the work out there, coming up with new ideas, new ventures, ways to promote the work, to market it, to sell it. In the old traditional world, the galleries used to do all of that, but now, because of social media, the internet, it has really changed the way that art is being presented in the world. And I recommend that artists get on social media, get on Instagram, get on all of the medias, because we need to put the work out there. One of the things that I did in 2005 was to use social media to start a blog called Painterly Visions Blog, and I had it active for 5 years, where I promoted work of other artists, of the local and regional art organizations, and just posted daily all of the art events that were happening. So it built up quite an audience and following over 5 years. People were very excited about it because I not only did big shows that were going on at the larger venues in town, I put little shows in there too that would be happening, some little organization or some artists that got together and did something. And I think that that's important, that artists work in their community as well as just for themselves. You become familiar with the community, you meet other artists, you meet art organizations, people who are associated with those in the community, and then you get to be known yourself through your interactions with people. So it's a way of giving back, some way to give back to the community. That was how I felt, I wanted to promote, and I had started marketing with the Washington Women's Art Center in the 1980s, and so that was my first introduction to marketing. And then when I picked it up again in 2005, this was a way to really again help promote the Washington, D.C. community. So I think that as artists, we're all in this together. It's our community, and any way that we can work to advance the community is a plus for everybody. Some of the stories are really funny when you start out as an artist. There are so many things that one does as an artist to continue to be able to create the work. And one of the things that I did early on, I was on call to work at different offices, and one of the offices that called me needed to have all of these cards typed. And at the time, I was very young and thinking that I would only be doing the painting. So as I was sitting there, I realized that I really hated doing this type of work. And I was typing, and it was just card after card, typing, and I just sat there and just, tears were running down my face. I just couldn't see myself living my life like that, and so that was the moment when I said, I can do this for now, but this is not how I'm going to live my life. So that was kind of like a point where I just had to move on from that. I did that until I couldn't do it anymore. And so as artists, we have to go through these processes of working, finding ways to be in the world that support our artistic selves. And the thing that you really, really want to remember is that when you go through your life, you're going to have all of these ups and downs. Things are going to sometimes work out, sometimes they're not going to work out. So you're going to have to go through those cycles, and you're just going to have to, the world is going to present some things where you're going to say, why am I doing this? You have to come back to this point where you are right now, and you have to say, the idealism that I have now is what started me, and this is where I come back to this, to remember that this is where I began. And if you can get yourself back to that space and remember why you began, what your idealism was, then you can just move forward again from there, because those are all of your wonderful dreams, and you need to keep those and protect them, nurture them throughout your whole career. You're going to forget, you're going to go through cycles, but you want to come back to that and remember.